Welcome, ladies and gentlemen. We'll call the second session of our Board of Water Resources to order. My name is Kyle Stevens. I'm the board chairman this year. We'll go through some brief introductions, have the members of the board introduce themselves, and then Director Hassenjaeger will introduce staff members for the Division of Water Resources, and then we'll proceed with our agenda items after that. So we'll begin with the introduction of the board members. Randy
Crozier.
Jim Lemon.
Norman Johnson.
Wayne Anderson.
BLAINE Ibsen.
Charles Holmgren, Bear River Basin.
and
I
Juliet.
think I'm next to introduce myself, Juliet Tenner, representing Salt Lake and Tooele.
Thank you. So I'll go ahead and ask Director Hassenjaeger to go ahead and introduce the division staff that are present.
Great, thank you. Today with us, we have Shalane DiBernardi, Marisa Egbert, Tom Cox, Russell Hadley, Jaqueline Pacheco, Ben Merritt, Grant Doty, Ani Baynard, Randy Staker, Stephen Gregerson. Minutes, we're having Shannon Clow take our minutes, and Landley Pham. And then we also have, I think, Jack Heinzman was here earlier. And then in the back are behind the curtain, Paul Gedge and Carmen McDonald doing all of our AV work.
Well, thank you. And again, welcome to everybody. We appreciate those that are here with us today in person. And we've also made arrangements to where those that are not able to be in person are able to participate with us virtually. The meeting today is a little bit different from the standpoint of we've gone through our normal agenda items, which were conducted in our first session, which began at 10:30. But because of the volume of secondary meter applications, which is the primary focus of this meeting today, it's been broken up into 3 sections. And so this morning, the morning session, we reviewed the Weber and Bear River projects. This afternoon in this session, I think it's we're slated to review
Sevier and Provo.
Sevier, Provo, just Sevier and Provo,
Yeah, and this
I guess. And then in this session, then the third session, which will be later at 3:30, will be the remaining applications to be considered. Normally, we would, and part of the reason you're invited, actually required to attend when an application is being considered for authorization in the first time, to be either in person or virtually. And so we appreciate everyone being here, but because of the number of applications that we're considering, 70 plus today, we've decided to break it up in these in this format. And normally each participant would come, each sponsor would come to the table and introduce themselves, and but we are bypassing that today just to expedite things because of the volume of applications that we have to cover. And so we are having staff make those presentations. Then if there are any questions, we will entertain questions or discussion at that point. And so that's kind of the process that we will follow. Marisa Egbert will make the first presentation, and she will read in a statement as to kind of outlines how we, why we are here, where the funding source is coming from for the secondary meter grant program, and that process. And then Director Hassenjaeger will read in the names of the representatives for each of the projects that will be being considered. And we're required to do that just so that we have everything on the record and is duly noted, and we're complying with all of the public meeting notice requirements. And so that's kind of how we'll proceed. Is there a question?
There was a question online, Mark Johnson had a question. I don't know, Mr. Chair, if you want to take that.
Go ahead, Mark, if you have a question.
Yeah, I do. I'm the mayor of Lehigh City and understood Lehigh City's proposal was going to be heard during this session. That was information I have, but yet you did not read it. So I'm just curious.
Okay, we haven't read all of them yet. And so, but yes, yours will be considered during this session.
Okay, sorry to interrupt.
Thank you for asking the question. So Marisa, we'll go ahead and turn the time to you.
I can read names first and then
Oh,
we'll.
excuse me. Okay.
Sounds good. Okay. So with us, so what I'm going to do is just read those in the first consideration of the Sevier River District. So those of you who are like, wait, you didn't read my name, you're in the next district. So I will get to you. So with the Sevier River District in person with Gunnison City is here with Dennis Marker, Donald Childs, and JD Bunnell. And then with Willow Creek Irrigation Company, we also have Tyler Blackburn and Jeff Beck here present with us. And then all online today, we have the town of Annabella, Tina Mitchell, Horseshoe Irrigation Company, Randy Strait, Manti City Creek, Brian Hines and Garrick Weldon. And then we have Centerville City with Jaden Sorensen, Mayfield Irrigation Company, Doug Jerngard and Garrett Weldon. And then Fountain Green Irrigation Company, we have Greg Johnson and Garrett Weldon. With Birch Creek Irrigation Company, we have Butch Walters and Garrett Weldon. Moroni City, Thane Fred Atkinson. And then Loa Town, we have Michelle Bryan and Chris Olson virtually present with us.
Okay, thank you. So now, Marisa, we'll turn the time to you.
So I just have to say, because Doug with Mayfield really has a cool last name, and I thought the way I said it to you would work. Beer Guard.
Sorry.
Garrick let me know it was like guard of the beer. And I'm like, oh, okay, that'll stick. So if Doug, you're online already, sorry about that. But you probably have heard that a lot. And I know in the first session, I came up to do something with the laptop, and Kyle, you asked if I was going to speak, and I said I didn't plan to, and probably all the jaws dropped in the room when I wasn't going to say anything, because heaven forbid I be for loss of words. So I thought, well, I'll just read the opening thing and take Sevier, and then I can speak. I didn't get to do this in the first session, and I'm just going to take a little bit of I don't know what the word is. I just want to thank all the staff that has, and I wish we really don't have time to list them. We've got so many projects to list, but just so grateful for all of the staff. Candace, do you see from Michelle? There was a comment online. We've got a couple other people from, okay. I've got that, Michelle. So Don Bone and Mayor Grundy from LOA are also online. Appreciate them being here, being a part of this. Yeah, message just popped up. I just can't thank the funding managers enough. Those in the room and online have been talking to these funding managers, but we've got so many others that have been helping and reviewing reports and just writing reports and fixing things at the last second. And I'm just really grateful for everyone. So let me start. And this is something that's also in part of this is also in all of the reports. Utah is one of the driest states in the nation, one of the fastest growing, and drinking water sources are limited. In addition, potential climate change impacts and the current multi-year drought in Utah threaten water supplies and put public drinking water supplies at risk. Municipalities and water companies need to reduce their water use to stretch their existing drinking water supplies. Many Utah communities also have secondary water, typically used to irrigate lawns and gardens. Secondary water is not treated to culinary standards and is utilized throughout the state to protect the drinking water supplies. However, many users waste this precious resource because they do not realize how much they are using. Technology has improved over the last decade and allows for the metering of untreated secondary water. Individual water use cannot be measured without metering, so water suppliers have begun installing meters on their secondary water connections. And then by educating their customers on their measured use compared to the amount they should be using, suppliers have seen as much as a 20 to 30% reduction in use. Secondary metering combined with conservation and education protects the drinking water supplies and allows drinking water providers to plan for their future growth. House Bill 242 from the Utah legislature states that a secondary water supplier shall install and maintain a meter of the use of pressurized secondary water by each user receiving secondary water service from that supplier by January 1st of 2030. The legislature provided $250 million in federal ARPA funds to the Board of Water Resources to help providers meet that requirement. The board may issue grants up to 70% of the project costs, but grants are limited to $5 million for providers with 7,000 secondary connections or less, and $10 million for providers with more than 7,000 connections. These ARPA funds must be contracted by the end of 2024 and spent by the end of 2026. And that is language that is in the ARPA from the federal government. That is in the ARPA language of these funds. If the board provides grant funds for a project, the secondary water supplier must submit or update a water conservation plan for its service area and obtain approval of that plan from the Division of Water Resources staff. In addition, meters purchased with grant money shall allow for data communication between the meter and other devices designed to manage use of the secondary water. And the secondary water supplier must agree to provide an educational component to each end user, either in a monthly water use statement or a customer-specific internet portal. This education component must promote water conservation and provide information on the customer's secondary water use. And those are requirements from the Utah legislature on that if grant funds are used to install meters. And then, okay, am I just jumping in, Sevier? All right, this is new for me too. Okay. Make sure I have the right stuff here. All right, so we are, sorry. Okay, so this is Sevier River District for our board member BLAINE Ipson. And I'm gonna go ahead and read through all of the different applications. The first applicant is for the town of Annabella. They are planning to install 224 meters at a total project cost of $678,000. And they're estimating that they'll conserve about 65 acre feet. Staff recommends the board authorize and commit 70% of the project cost up to $475,000 as a secondary meter grant. Staff also recommends the board authorize 25.5% of the project cost up to $113,000 as a loan and that the bonded indebtedness be returned. Did I read it wrong?
16.7. The town of Annabella. That's what it says in the packet.
Oh, you may have something incorrect.
That is what it says in the
It
book.
says
It says 16.7.
Of the project cost, the loan, is it?
In the packet, in the report, it says 16.7, but then in the summary sheet, it says 25.5.
Okay.
But that,
Who's got?
why don't you move on to Gunnison City and I will check it.
Okay, sounds good. All right. Sorry. So we will come back to the town of Annabella. We promise. We ready? And Shalane will look that up and confirm. The next applicant is Gunnison City. They are planning to install 850 meters at a total project cost of $4,040,000. And they're estimating that they can conserve 350 acre feet. Staff recommends that the board authorize and commit 70% of the project cost up to $2,828,000 as a secondary meter grant. Staff also recommends the board authorize 25.5% of the project cost up to $1,030,000 as a loan, and that the bonded indebtedness be returned at 1% interest over 15 years with annual payments of approximately $80,000, includes reserves. Good. The next applicant is Horseshoe Irrigation Company. They are planning to install about 493 meters at a total project cost of $1,014,000, and they're estimating that they can conserve 542 acre feet. Staff recommends that the board authorize and commit 70% of the project cost up to $710,000 as a secondary meter grant. Staff also recommends that the board authorize 25.5% of the project cost up to $259,000, and that the project be purchased at 1% interest over 15 years with annual payments of approximately $18,700. I'm kind of my mic's cutting in and out a little bit. All right, the next one is Manti City Creek Water Users Mutual Association. They are planning to install 1,100 meters at a projected cost of $3,747,000, and are estimating they'll conserve 550 acre feet. Staff recommends that the board authorize and commit 70% of the project cost up to $2,623,000 as a secondary meter grant. Staff also recommends that the board authorize 25.5% of the project cost up to $956,000, and that the project be purchased at 1% interest over 15 years with annual payments of approximately $69,000. Good. Next one, Centerfield. Centerfield City, is planning to install 480 meters at a cost estimate of $1,574,000, and they're estimating they'll conserve 240 acre feet. Staff recommends that the board authorize and commit 70% of the project cost up to $1,102,000 as a secondary meter grant. Staff also recommends the board authorize 25.5% of the project cost up to $402,000 as a loan, and that the bonded indebtedness be returned at 1% interest over 15 years with annual payments of approximately $31,000. That includes reserves. Good. The next one is Mayfield Irrigation Company with a great last name. Mayfield Irrigation Company is planning to install about 270 secondary meters at a total cost estimate of $994,000, and are expecting to conserve about 100 acre feet. Staff recommends that the board authorize and commit 70% of the project cost up to $696,000 as a secondary meter grant. Staff also recommends that the board authorize 25.5% of the project cost up to $253,000, and that the project be purchased at 1% interest over 15 years with annual payments of approximately $18,300. Next one is Fountain Green. Fountain Green is planning to install 250 secondary meters at a total cost estimate of $1,188,000, and they're expected to conserve 125 acre feet. Staff recommends that the board authorize and commit 70% of the project cost up to $832,000 as a secondary meter grant. Staff also recommends that the board authorize 25.5% of the project cost up to $303,000, and that the project be purchased at 1% interest over 15 years with annual payments of approximately $21,900. The next one is Willow Creek Irrigation Company. The Willow Creek Irrigation Company plans to install about 115 secondary meters at a total cost estimate of $390,000, and are expecting to conserve about 35 acre feet of water. Staff recommends that the board authorize and commit 70% of the project cost up to $273,000 as a secondary meter grant. Birch Creek Irrigation Company. Birch Creek Irrigation Company plans to install about 60 secondary meters at a cost estimate of $386,000 and are expecting to conserve about 48 acre feet. Staff recommends that the board authorize and commit 70% of the project cost up to $270,000 as a secondary meter grant. Moroni City. Moroni City plans to install about 500 secondary meters at a cost of $949,000 and are expecting to conserve about 100 acre feet. Staff recommends that the board authorize and commit 70% of the project cost up to $949,000 as a secondary meter grant. Yes.
On the cost estimate, it shows $1,355,000. The 949 is down on 70% of the cost, up to 949. Up above it says. estimates 1,355,000.
Okay.
Another error, sorry.
So I'll go to Loa and then I'll come back. Do you mind writing that down for me? So let's go ahead and jump to Loa. Then we'll come back to Annabella and Moroni City and make sure I get the numbers right. Loa Town. Loa Town is anticipating to install 129 meters at a cost estimate of $380,000 and is expecting to conserve about 80 acre feet. Staff recommends that the board authorize and commit 70% of the project cost up to $266,000 as a secondary meter grant. Staff also recommends that the board authorize 25.5% of the project cost up to $97,000 as a loan, and that the bonded indebtedness be returned at 1% interest over 15 years with annual payments of approximately $8,000, which includes reserves. Okay there? I mean, we only had a handful of motions in this thing, so.
So the 16.7% is correct for Annabella. They don't want to go into more debt than that. So it isn't 25.5%. Sorry about that.
Okay, and how much is that?
And it is, the dollar amount is correct.
The dollar amount is correct?
Yes, just the percentage is wrong.
Okay.
And
Is the repayment correct at 9,000?
yes.
And then Moroni?
And Moroni, the grant amount was correct. The
It's
total cost. So the motion
gotcha.
should be okay. Or the staff recommendation should be
And I
okay.
didn't quite finish it though, so.
Right. So the total
Okay.
cost was $1,355,000 for Moroni.
Well, we just wanted to give them a 100% grant, I guess.
Yeah,
So we
didn't.
tried.
We didn't.
We tried,
We're not
Moroni.
allowed.
We tried. Okay, foiled again. All right, let me go back to the town of Annabella. I will just go over the motions. The town of Annabella, the staff recommends the board authorize and commit 70% of the project cost up to $475,000 as a secondary meter grant. Staff also recommends that the board authorize 16.7% of the project cost up to $113,000 as a loan, and that the bonded indebtedness be returned at 1% interest over 15 years with annual payments of approximately $9,000, which includes reserves. Yes. Okay, let's go back to Moroni City. Moroni, I will just do the motions. Staff recommends for Moroni City that the board authorize and commit 70% of the project cost up to $949,000 as a secondary meter grant. Staff also recommends that the board authorize 25.5% of the project cost up to $346,000 as a loan, and that the bonded indebtedness be returned at 1% interest over 15 years with annual payments of approximately $27,000, and that includes reserves. And I think that's staff's report. Okay.
Okay, thank you, Marisa, for that information. As a part of the public process, we're also required to request any public comment. As we discussed in our earlier sessions today, there have been no public comments made by those that have been received online. And so we'll make note of that and then ask for the question, is there anyone in the audience that would like to make a comment at this point? Seeing none, we will turn to Mr. Ibsen, who is the representative for the Sevier River District, and ask him if he's prepared to make motions.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I move that the board authorize and commit secondary meter grants for the following: the town of Annabella, Gunnison City, Horseshoe Irrigation Company, Manti City Creek Water Users Mutual Association, Centerfield City, Mayfield Irrigation Company, Fountain Green Irrigation Company, Willow Creek Irrigation Company, Birch Creek Irrigation Company, Moroni City, and Loa Town, according to staff's recommendations.
Okay, it's been motioned and second. Any further discussion? Seeing none, we'll call for the question then. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Any opposed? I'll rule the motion carries, and also note that Juliet voted in the affirmative online. So we'll
I
go
have
ahead.
one more
We'll have to go
motion,
with the
too.
next motion.
Okay. My next motion is I move that the board authorize secondary meter loans for the following: the town of Annabella, Gunnison City, Horseshoe Irrigation Company, Manti City Creek Water Users Mutual Association, Centerfield City, Mayfield Irrigation Company, Fountain Green Irrigation Company, Moroni City, and Loa Town, according to staff's recommendations.
Okay,
Second.
you've heard the motion. Is there a second?
Second.
There's a motion by Mr. Anderson. Any comments or discussion relative to the motion? Seeing none, we'll call for the question then. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed by the same sign. Rule the motion carries, and note that Juliet voted in the affirmative. Okay, thank you to those applicants from the Sevier River area. Now just need to work on getting things finalized and moving forward. We recognize that time is of the essence with a lot of these projects, with the time constraints placed on us by the federal government, which is the source, main source of the funding. Also, there might be supply chain issues that some entities may have to deal with, but we want to move forward in making this available to help conserve water. Okay, so we'll move to the next group on our agenda, and that is Provo River District. So Director Hasenjager, if you'll go ahead and read the names of those that that are present and or virtual for the applicants for this area.
Okay. What's the name? Just trying to make sure we include everybody. Great. So with us in person today from Lehigh City, we have Shiloh Molstein, Dean Lundell, Dave Norman, and then with City of Cedar Hills, Tyler Ashton, Upper East Union Irrigation Company, Harold Milden, Heber City, Matt Brower. Is there two here? Sorry. Okay, Russ Funk and Matt Brower. Thank you. From Linden City, we have Juan Garridio, and Pleasant Grove City, John Heiss. sorry, Shees, thank you. Timpanogos Canal Company, Shane Jones, Nephi Irrigation Company, Dakota Reindesbacher, and also with Linden City, Carolyn Lundberg. Thank you for being here. And then with us online, we have with Lehigh City as well, Mark Johnson, American Fork City, Rebecca Andrus, the City of Highland, Andy Spencer and Travis Timothy, Heber City, Heidi Franco, Pleasant Grove City, Brent Bullock, and then Timpanogos Canal Company, Shane Jones might be online too. So thank you.
Thank you, Candace. I'm glad you're the one that has to try and pronounce those names. So,
And I have the hardest last name in the world, so I always get my name wrong. So I feel bad. Sorry about that.
thank you. Jaqueline, looks like you get the opportunity to present all of these.
Yeah.
Okay.
The first one is Lehigh City. Lehigh City is planning to install 5,700 meters at a total cost of $14,286,000. They expect to conserve approximately 1,368 acre feet. Staff recommends the board authorize and commit 70% of the project cost, up to $10 million, as a secondary meter grant. Staff also recommends the board authorize 25.5% of the project cost, up to $3,643,000, as a loan, and that the bonded indebtedness be returned at 1% interest over, sorry, I have my notes are wrong. 15 years. That all of them are 15 years. Sorry, I got nervous. Okay, 15 years. I'm missing the 5 in my notes. Okay, 15 years. And let me just repeat this. Staff also recommends the board authorize 25.5% of the project cost, up to $3,643,000, as a loan, and that the bonded indebtedness be returned at 1% interest over 15 years, with annual payments of approximately $283,000, including reserves. Next, we have American Fork City. They are planning to install 7,300 meters at a total cost of $10,870,000. They expect to conserve approximately 2,880 acre feet. Staff recommends the board authorize and commit 60.4% of the project cost, up to $6,559,000, as a secondary meter grant. The City of Cedar Hills is planning to install 2,070 meters at a total cost of $2,172,000. They expect to conserve approximately 630 acre feet. Staff recommends the board authorize and commit 70% of the project cost, up to $1,520,000, as a secondary meter grant. Next, we have City of Highland. The City of Highland is planning to install 4,500 meters at a total cost of $9,800,000. They expect to conserve approximately 3,750 acre feet. Staff recommends the board authorize and commit 51% of the project cost, up to $5 million, as a secondary meter grant. Okay. Next, we have Upper East Union Irrigation Company. They are planning to install 32 meters at a total cost of $300,000. They expect to conserve approximately 283.5 acre feet. Staff recommends the board authorize and commit 70% of the project cost, up to $210,000, as a secondary meter grant. Okay. Next project is Heber City. Heber City is planning to install 2,945 meters at a total cost of $7,800,000. They expect to conserve approximately 1,130 acre feet. Staff recommends the board authorize and commit 64.1% of the project cost, up to $5 million, as a secondary meter grant. Staff also recommends the board authorize 25.6% of the project cost up to $1,997,000 as a loan, and the bonded indebtedness to be returned at 1% interest over 15 years with annual payments of approximately $155,000, including reserves. Okay. Next, we have Linden City. They plan to install 2,616 meters at a total cost of $3,204,000. They expect to conserve approximately 806 acre feet. Staff recommends the board authorize and commit 23.7% of the project cost up to $758,000 as a secondary meter grant. Okay. Next, we have Pleasant Grove City. They plan to install 7,480 meters at a total cost of $15 million. They expect to conserve approximately 1,720 acre feet. Staff recommends the board authorize and commit 66.7% of the project cost up to $10 million, the secondary meter grant. Staff also recommends the board authorize 28.3% of the project cost up to $4,250,000 as a loan, and that the bonded indebtedness be returned at 1% interest over 15 years with annual payments of approximately $330,000, including reserves. Next, we have Timpanogos Canal Company. They plan to install 43 meters at a total cost of $410,000. They expect to conserve approximately 189 acre feet. Staff recommends the board authorize and commit 70% of the project cost up to $287,000 as a secondary meter grant. Okay, and finally we have Nephi Irrigation Company. Nephi Irrigation Company is planning to install 675 meters at a total cost of $1,370,000. They expect to conserve approximately 945 acre feet. Staff recommends the board authorize 70% of the project cost up to $959,000 as a secondary meter grant. Staff also recommends the board authorize 25.5% of the total project cost up to $350,000, and the project be purchased at 1% interest over 15 years with annual payments of approximately $25,300. That is staff's report, and I apologize if I went through them really fast. I tend to speak pretty fast, so sorry if I went too fast.
Thank you, Jaqueline. Appreciate that information. We'll again make mention here that no online public comments were received. And so we'll ask if there is anyone present, either online or in person, if there are any comments that need to be made for any of the projects. Okay, even though you spoke fast, doesn't look like there's any questions. So, okay. All right. So we'll turn to the representative, Wayne Anderson from that area for the motions.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I move that the board authorize and commit secondary meter grants for Lehigh City, American Fork City, City of Cedar Hills, City of Highland, Upper East Union Irrigation Company, Heber City, Linden City, Pleasant Grove City, and Timpanogos Canal Company according to staff's recommendations.
Second.
There's been a motion and a second
Randy said.
second by Randy Crozier. Hold on just one second. I had a question. What's the Nephi Irrigation? Is not?
Authorization.
Pardon?
Authorization only.
Okay,
For both.
all right. Okay, so you've heard the motion. Is there any discussion on the motion? Seeing none, we'll call for the question. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed by the same sign? We'll rule the motion carries. And again, note that Juliet voted in the affirmative. Okay.
Okay, my second motion, I move that the board authorize the secondary meter grant for Nephi Irrigation Company according to staff's recommendation.
Okay, it's been moved. Is there a second? Another second by Randy Crozier. Any discussion relative to the motion? Seeing none, we'll call for the question. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed by the same sign? Thank you. A rule the motion carries. And again, note that Juliet voted in the affirmative. Again, thank you, Jaqueline, and thank you to all those
I
who.
still have one more
Oh,
motion,
excuse me.
Mr. Chairman.
Excuse me, I'm jumping the gun. So go ahead with your next motion.
I move that the board authorize secondary meter loans for Lehigh City, Heber City, Pleasant Grove City, and Nephi Irrigation Company according to staff's recommendations.
You've heard the motion. Is there a second? Second by Blaine Ibsen. I apologize for that. Didn't want to deny you the opportunity for the loan. So any discussion on the motion? Seeing none, we'll call for the question. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those, any opposed? Motion, the rule, the motion carries. And again, note that Juliet voted in the affirmative. Are there any other motions or business to be brought up with this particular section? Okay. Thank you, Jaqueline. Okay, the next area is the Lower Colorado.
We're done for this session.
Oh, we're done. Holy cow, we're done. I'm trying to jump ahead and get done even a lot earlier. So then that concludes the business for this session of the board meeting. Again, thank you to those that have taken the time to come and be here in person, and those that participated online. We recognize, but by virtue of your being here demonstrates the need to move forward and the desire to move forward with the grants and the loan process and installation of the meter. So thank you very much. And we will recess until 3:30.
You're gonna hang time.